Hey guys, it's Linux Next here, and in today's video we are going to be looking at KDE Plasma 6.2, or to be more specific, we are looking at KDE Plasma 6.2.1, and I'm going to be showing you some of the new features that arrived in this desktop environment version of KDE Plasma, and some of the bugs that I have experienced when it comes to playing specific games as well, because I know there's a bug currently with KDE Plasma that I'll talk about later in the video. But before this video starts, definitely give this video a like and definitely subscribe to the channel. I would say we are at 7 point something K subscribers, so thank you. I think I made it to 7,000 subscribers I think last week or a couple days ago, something like that, so thank you. I really do appreciate it. Now I thought I would just start off and just do the bugs that I've experienced in the desktop environment, because that kind of like what really matters when you are reviewing a newer version of a desktop, especially in the KDE verse of things, because this version that came out, there was a couple of bugs that did arrive in the desktop environment. I would say one in particular was when you launch games with a custom cursor or even your regular cursor, it will leave a second cursor behind when you just click on the game. So not clicking on like the icon on the task manager, but just clicking on the full screen game to then go into the game, it's going to leave a second cursor. So I'll show you an example of this. So one game we'll try out is Fragpunk. It is a newer game that came out recently as a playtest currently, and it does support Linux. I did enable it, and I thought I would show you the issue of this cursor problem. So you can see right off the bat, when the game launches, you can see it uses a custom cursor, but it left behind my normal cursor. So to fix this, we have to just click on the icon, which is pretty simple, I would say. That's not really that big of an issue, but it still is a issue that people will notice, and it's something that my friend noticed when he was trying it Plasma 6.2 on Fedora, because Fedora decided to update to 6.2, and yeah, he noticed it, and I was like, yeah, that's just a bug that's gonna have to be fixed at some point. So if we go into a training match here, and we just click off the game and then click on the game, as you can see, it leaves behind the custom cursor again, and we just have to click the icon. So this bug, I did report it straight away because I saw it in the beta version, which was 6.1.90 of KDE Plasma, and I reported it, and it has been confirmed, and there is a KWIN developer assigned on it. I forgot his name, I think Xavier or something, Xavier Hugh, I think his name is, or something. He is working on this bug to be fixed, so thank you. I really do appreciate it, and it should be fixed at some point. Probably, if I had to guess, it would have to be the next bug release that happens, which is next week, and that is 6.2.2, that possibly will have this bug fixed. If not, then it's going to be the next bug release, because there's two more bug releases that are happening. So like I said, 6.2.1 came out on the 15th, or was the 16th on my time, and then this one is coming out on the 22nd, and then 2.3 is coming out next month on the 5th, or the 6th for me, and then 6.2.4 is on the 26th of the 11th, and then 6.2.5 is on the 12th of the 31st. So there's a bunch of bugs releases that are coming out. They're going to try and clean up Plasma 6.2 and just more bugs that have happened over the past couple of years in the KDE Plasma space. And then I'll leave this bug report in the description for you guys to look at, as some people have reported some other issues. One person did say that they mentioned that if they enable VSync and they have screen tearing turned off, then that cursor problem does not happen. So it seems to be something to do with screen tearing plus turning off VSync or VSync on. It's a weird mixture you have to do to make the bug not happen. So that gives a clue onto like how this will get fixed. I guess it's something to do with the screen tearing protocol, if I had to guess. And when it comes to the other bugs, there was one issue with sound, like the sound panel that right here wouldn't load properly when you clicked on it, but that doesn't seem to happen for me anymore, so that's pretty much good. Now, some of the bugs that got fixed that I noticed that happened in 6.1, one was like when you had windows open, let's say you had like 3 floating windows open, and you would click on the window that is in front of you, it would click on the window behind you. Sometimes just randomly, you just click on the main window that's in front of you, and then it would decide to click on the window behind you. That doesn't seem to happen as much anymore. It did happen at least once, I'm pretty sure, today or yesterday, that I noticed that it happened, but it hasn't like happened as much as it did on 6.1. And then one long-standing bug that I continue to see is when you plug in different types of USB devices, specifically storage devices like a USB stick or a USB stick with like a micro SD SD card in it, the Plasma shell likes to crash. And I reported a lot of bugs about that, and they weren't able to replicate it. But when testing 6.2 or 6.2.1, I was not able to replicate those Plasma shell crashes when plugging in a storage USB stick or something with like a micro SD card plugged in it. That just didn't happen anymore for me. Now, when it comes to the first thing that you may notice is how the Plasma system tray works now when it's expanded. So if we do check here and we just go on like this, we go on our status and notification, and then let's say we're going to click on this. So you can see the bar likes to move across now. If we just click on different things, as you can see, it's like moving across to different pages. Instead of it likes to just move across different pages, it now blends it in easier where there's like a bar that actually moves properly with you. So it looks more fluid when you're moving across instead of different pages just opening up each time. So one of the things that you may notice is that when you go to the widgets page now, there is a nice little indicator next to the widget of how many widgets are being used in your desktop. So like the application launcher, there's 3 of them because I have 3 panels and all 3 of them have the application launcher. And then when you click on it, it's just going to keep ticking up and up, and the number's just going to keep going higher of how many you have. And then the other one is if we add a new widget. So let's say we'll just download some random widget like shutdown or switch. So we'll install this one. And if we go to add manage widgets, we can see there is a new button indicating that this is a new widget that you decided to add. Just a little thing, little tiny thing that makes it a little bit easier when it comes to finding widgets that are newly installed. And one of the other bugs that I forgot to mention is that when you used to add widgets on a panel, and let's say your widget was over here, you weren't able to actually remove the widget because of this panel setting was in front of it. So this little thing here, this UI element, would be behind this panel setting. And so you couldn't remove it, and you had to move it like over to the other side of the panel, so then you could remove it. But now, as you can see, it does show like system tray. I can now remove it without the panel setting being in front of it. It is behind it now, so then you can actually remove that widget properly. And if we go into the Plasma settings, there has been a couple of things that have been changed and like removed or moved around again. One is the quick settings. So this got changed. It now looks a little bit, I guess, newer, easier to look at when it comes to clicking different widgets. I personally don't really use this much, so I don't really notice a change that much when I first look at it. But I think there's just like there's more widgets here that you can select, easier of clicking the themes, even though this is the exact same. Probably some more things like clicking files. I don't think that was there last time, so that's cool that that is available now, or that is changed, and it's just more easier when it comes to quick settings. One other new thing they decided to add was in the mouse setting option. You can now configure extra buttons.
Whoa, crazy.
So now if I press the mouse button for whatever key binding, so I press this button and then it says to enter a new key combination. So let's do Alt Shift, for example, or just FN Shift. So it's just Shift for me. As you can see, there you go. I got an extra button one, which when I press my side mouse button, it's going to press Shift. So that's pretty cool that that feature has been added as an extra mouse button option. Now, one of the coolest things I would say about this specific release with Plasma is that they redid the drawing tablet settings. So it's been completely changed, basically. There's been a bunch of new options, as you can see. And when it comes to a drawing tablet, because I do have a drawing tablet, as you can see, one is plugged in right now. And it is a XP Pen Deco 1 V2, as you can see. Right here. It's a pretty good entry-level drawing tablet that I have, and I haven't used it in years. Kind of a bad buying mistake, but it does make it good when it comes to testing it on Linux with different desktop environments, just to see how it behaves when it comes to moving your cursor around or clicking on things or drawing in different applications. But as you can see, back to what we have here, we have a new UI when it comes to a drawing tablet, and we can actually change a lot of the functions of the drawing tablet now, which is pretty cool, without needing a third-party driver, because when I plug this in on Plasma 6.1 or before, I had to grab a third-party application to actually change like the mapped area of the drawing tablet. But as you can see now, it is working. I'm just moving my pen around as a cursor on the drawing tablet, and it is working. And we can change like map to screen, so we can choose the monitor that we want. I'm gonna choose this one. We can choose left-handed mode. We can choose map area to fit the screen. We can keep aspect ratio and fit within screen, or we can map to portion. So if we do map to portion, we can change the size of this, make it extremely small. So if we hit apply, then we got these like barriers here. As you can see, it ends right about here, and that's pretty cool. We can just really customize it the way we want. And the good thing is that they aren't done with this. They have a few extra things that they're going to add to the drawing tablet UI in 6.3, so that's pretty good to see. And I'll show you guys the merge request for it soon. But as you can see, we can change the pen button, so that the buttons that are on this pen, or we can change the actual pad buttons on the side, which are these ones right here. So you can see here, there's like a bunch of little buttons that we can press, and we can easily bind them to a different thing. So if we want to click on this, we can go send a keyboard key. We can defer to application of what the application does. So if you're in like GIMP or Critter or something, and that button's already applied to a certain action, then it'll just do that. Or send a mouse button click, you can do that also, or you can just do nothing. And as we can see here, as I said before, they are going to overhaul the tablet UI, make it a little bit more cleaner and just easier to understand. So they're going to create different like tabs that you can click on to change certain things. So there's a general, there's a stylus, and a tablet. And you can see there's the other options or tabs that you can go to. So stylus is, it shows the pen buttons, and then the tablet would show tablet buttons that you can rebind. So there's another image here of Nate Graham testing it out. Pretty cool. And one other thing that I did forget to show is that you can test the tablet also at the top right, just to show that it actually does work. Here we are, we're drawing around. I think that's pretty cool how you can just easily just test it. And I'm pretty sure the KDE developers, they tested a lot of different tablets to try and actually like make this work pretty well on all drawing tablets. So a great feature, I would say, that improves drawing tablets on KDE Plasma. Now, one extra thing that they decided to update in the KWIN side of things was the color management protocol to version 3 on their Wayland version of KWIN. And if we go to here, it says here that there's no change in features yet, and they'll be added in future commits. So the actual features that are in this version 3 are not going to be included till later. But if we see here, I'm going to leave this linked in the description where you can go and read it, because for me, I'm not really that versed in these type of features. I don't really understand it that much. But ones like implement min and max luminance levels for transfer functions, merges sRGB and linear transfer functions, merge no color management and color management paths completely. Nightlight is now always handled exactly the same. Drops the shadow buffer down from 16 to 10 bits per color when supported, which should improve performance a bit with HDR enabled. Offloads the gamma 2.2 PQ conversion plus nightlight and brightness adjustments to KMS, and removes the shadow buffer entirely on a lot of hardware. Improves KMS offloading of color operations by combining operations even more than the color pipeline already does. So for me and my brain, I'm like, okay, it's just going to improve lots of different color management stuff with HDR, with combining different things with HDR and nightlight and color, max luminance levels and stuff like that. So overall, it's just going to improve color management when it comes to the KWIN Wayland compositor. So one of the other, I would say, big improvements is with HDR, which isn't done yet, but they did bring one thing in, which was to improve the handling of brightness for HDR in ICC profiles, as well as HDR performance. This will improve your experience when designing graphics, playing games, and watching videos. And it shows before and after. So it says a new tone mapping feature built into Plasma's KWIN compositor will help improve the look of images with a brightness or set of colors greater than what the screen can display, thus reducing the blown out look such images can otherwise exhibit. So you can see a before, so this was before 6.2, and then after, which looks way better when we look at this slide and we go to the after. Like, wow, that is a big improvement, I would say. And then the other one was that they improved the color profile. So now if you do have color profile data in your monitor, when you use the built-in one, it should be able to grab it more accurately. And as it shows here, note that built-in color profiles are sometimes wrong and often inaccurate. For optimal color fidelity, calibration using a color eye meter is recommended. But for, like I said, if you do have color, like proper color profile data in your monitors like firmware, KDE Plasma should be able to see it now more accurately and apply it when you select the built-in color profile. Now, one of the cool features that I have seen in the 6.2 release is brightness with individual monitors. So now if we click on the nightlight option, which is called brightness and color, actually, you can see there is 3 different options for my brightness on all of my monitors. Now, I did test this and it does work on my main monitor. So it's at 0. It does change it. I can choose it to max. It goes to max. But on my Zowie, I know my Zowie monitor is working. Okay, okay, they're all working. When I tried this on Plasma 6.2, it didn't work on the Zowie monitor. It worked on the main one and then on my 60Hz Samsung monitor. But now if we try it, it works on all three. So that's really cool. The brightness option now actually works when you turn it down on the monitors that you have. I'd like to know if your monitors actually do work with this brightness slider. It actually does work for me now in 6.2.1. One of the other options that you can now do is if you're trying to shut down your computer and it's blocking the shutdown from happening because there's applications running and it's like,
oh, no, you're not allowed to shut down because the applications are blocking the shutdown or sleep or lock screen or whatever you're trying to do or restart.
You can override those apps now to actually do the restart properly, so then it actually restarts. Or blocking sleep or screen locking, whatever it may be. And some other little things about power management, like the battery widget icon now shows a power profile badge. The battery monitor widget once again stays visible while the computer is charging. Meta plus B shortcut to switch power profiles now cycles through them individually. So that's some cool little options and fixes that have added for the power management section of things. Now, one of the other nice additions is in Discover. They did add a couple of updates. One of them is ability to shut down after applying a offline system update, not just a reboot. So that's pretty cool that they've added that. Discover now supports post-market OS. Even though I have post-market OS on my Poco F1 and I'm running the Plasma mobile version and it does work, but I'm guessing they just added actual like official support for post-market OS. Well, before I'm guessing post-market OS was like adding some modified things to actually make it work properly. Discover now helps you write better reviews. So if you go on an application and you want to write a review, it is a lot more easier now. So like if I went to bottles, for example, and I wanted to write a review, I can easily do that now. Add the title, add description, add the rating, and I can submit the review. That looks a lot more easier, I would say. And then Discover now present apps license information more accurately. So you can see the license that is being used in whatever application that you're installing. And then the share button was removed, which I did notice that. It was moved to the top here, as you can see. And there was a couple of things that they did leave out in the 6.2 release patch notes. One was the symbolic icons for categories. As you can see here, if you haven't noticed, it is all symbolic icons if you're using the Breeze theme. And it's the same for the application launcher, which they did change also. So you need the Breeze theme to be enabled if you want this. If you're using the Breeze dark theme, then it's going to use the normal application icons instead of the symbolic icons. And then one other thing was there was a small redesign, which I did notice this also. So you can see before, and then if we go after, we can see the difference as what got changed. So this is after, and this is before. So before, after, before, after, before, after. Little difference. Not really that big, but I guess it does improve it a little bit more when it comes to like links with like donations and stuff like that. I guess it's a bit better. And then the other one is Flatpak. Load app stream pulls asynchronously. It does improve the performance of when it comes to loading Flatpak applications in Discover. So there's a little bit of a performance boost on with the Flatpak side of things on Discover. And I do know there is a Discover improvement coming in 6.3 also. Now, if you do go back to the settings here and we go to accessibility, there is some new things that they did add. One was
sticky keys.
Sticky keys is something that's used on Windows and it's probably used on Mac OS as well. It hasn't been in the Plasma desktop of things. It has not been in here before, so now it is available. If you don't know what it says modifier keys like Control, Shift, Alt, and the Meta Super Windows key act as though they stick in place and no longer need to be held down when typing a keyboard shortcut. So it just makes it a little bit easier. I remembered I always turn this off on Windows because on Windows it's enabled by default, I'm pretty sure. And if you spammed Shift on Windows, it would come up and then you would disable it. So it's good that it's not enabled by default on KDE Plasma. If it was enabled by default, it'd be another thing I would have to disable, but it is not for now. So I guess that's good for me and maybe for some other people. But if you do need this when it comes to accessibility stuff, it is available for you now. One of the other one is color blindness filters now appear in the accessibility. So you can enable this and it does indeed work. I was testing it out and it was pretty weird using it on everything. Sometimes I use color blindness in certain video games because it makes the colors look a little bit more just nicer. Like in Apex Legends, I used to do that. But as you can see, all these color blindness options that you have available, like Tritanopia, I don't know how to say all these words, but they are available for you. If there's any others that are not available, comment down below. I don't know how many color blindness options there are, but it does seem like it is working and you can change the intensity level available also. Now, one of the other improvements that they decided to work on was the weather widget. So now if we do look at the weather widget, it actually shows night forecasts for NOAA weather provider. Now shows feels like temperatures for providers that support it, NOAA and NVCan currently. More information for BBC weather forecasts, and now shows information for providers only as a fallback. So for me, when I search up a location like Melbourne, for example, which does use the BBC weather, it now shows more information. Where I actually live, I get less information because I don't actually have that weather provider for me. But with Melbourne, we were able to get that weather provider, and it does show a lot more information, like the percentage of rain, which I'm pretty sure it's the same. It shows the feels like temperature here, and it does show a wind for the direction it's going and how fast it's going. And we can click on details also of the pressure density and the humidity. So that's pretty cool that those information is available, because for me, where I live, again, it doesn't show that much information. Usually it just shows the next 7 days, and then it just shows the degrees, the weather, the percentage of the rain that's going to happen, and then just the little icons. It doesn't actually show a feels like temperature or the wind or the humidity or the pressure or pressure density. So that's pretty cool that the Melbourne users do get access to that. So hopefully this gets improved more and more, because this is a really useful widget that I like to use now when it comes to having it on my second monitor, and actually does show enough information for me to know what the weather actually is. And when it comes to some other little things like networking, for example, it now supports enhanced open or OWE Wi-Fi security. So if you do use that, it now supports it. It does support web authenticator for SAML based network authentication. So that's pretty cool. That's been included. One other little thing is that accent colors are now respected when using the Breeze Dark Plasma theme or the Breeze Twilight Global theme. So that's pretty nice if you care about that stuff. It does get actually synced properly, and it's now like respected. Now, another redesign that did happen in the settings page was the keyboard. So here's an older image of the KDE Plasma keyboard settings UI. It does look pretty okay. There wasn't really that many big problems with it, I would say. But here is the new one that got redesigned. It's kind of hard to show this next to the older one, but as you can see, here is the new one. You can add different layouts. If you enable this, you can add different languages that you can easily switch to. There's the spare layouts, the change layout shortcut. You can change the actual model of the keyboard, the numlock on startup. If we do compare this, yeah, I guess numlock has been changed to a little one instead of this big area, which is kind of just like a waste of space when you have this waste of space here also. And then when it comes to the key repeat, those have been pushed down to little UI elements also, instead of these long sliders, which I probably would have preferred the sliders, but I guess this is fine also. And then the test area got moved up to here. Another little thing is open with dialog is now the same everywhere, so it's a lot more consistent when you have a open with dialog that you have to click on. And then some other ones is the welcome center, which I don't know if I can actually open this. I don't think I can, but there is a new design, a more rich visualization of the Plasma features in the welcome center. So that's a nice change. If you're new to KDE Plasma and you get introduced to the welcome screen, there's nice visualizations of whatever features KDE Plasma supports. Some other little things like connecting or disconnecting a screen now actually plays a sound. That's a little thing. I guess I can do it right now if I want to. I can unplug my display port on my monitor, and it should play a sound if I'm not muted. No, I'm not muted, so you probably did hear the sound. If I do plug it back in, it should play the sound again. Some other things, like they removed the KWIN morphing pop-up effect because it was unfixably buggy. So I don't really know what that is. It's a pop-up effect that had some weird bugginess to it, and they weren't able to fix it, so they just removed it instead. So one thing I did notice when jumping from EndeavourOS from Bazzite, and I had to change my user profile pic, it does have a cropping tool now. So that's pretty cool. If you do go to, say, the pictures here, we go to upscaled, and we want to select this one, and then if it loads the high quality image that I have here, because this is upscaled, so it's going to take a little bit to load it probably. So I decided to change my wallpaper from the other one that I clicked on, because that one is just way too big for KDE Plasma to load. It was just taking too long. So we selected this one here, and as you can see, we can actually resize it and zoom in if we want to. So if we can do this, we can just do on this guy's face. I forgot this guy's name. A really cool character from Naruto. Click OK, hit apply, and as you can see, there we go. We have a new user profile. profile pic, which is really cool that it actually does do this now. Another one is you can now change your custom shortcuts to your own name. So if you want to name a shortcut, I don't know, just to hit record or something, you can name it that so you know that that's the shortcut that is being used here. And they did enable the 1 year donation request notification, which is when every year near like Christmas time, KDE Plasma will include a notification for you to donate, because I would say it's really important that this desktop environment survives when it comes to a open source project, because they don't actually pay a lot of their developers. A lot of it is contributed work. There is a couple of people that actually are getting paid, but when it comes to how much money they make, it's not really a lot when it comes to the amount of people they actually have working on the project. So every year there will be a notification that you can disable. So when it comes up, you can disable it, and it just won't do another notification any other time on your system, unless of course you reset it or something. Then that notification will come back next year when that notification is supposed to appear. So one of the other things that they did decide to implement in their Wayland compositor, KWIN, they implemented the alpha modifier protocol. Now what this does, the alpha modifier protocol allows clients to set a multiplier for the opacity of a service, which allows them to offload some operations to KWIN, which in turn may offload them to KMS in the future. Now what does this do? Well, it's offloading stuff from the compositor to something like from KWIN to KMS and so forth, which can improve how, I guess, applications and graphics hardware work with the compositor or the Wayland compositor. And so in hand, you get a just more better performance, I guess, out of your KWIN compositor, which is just better for the end user. So, I mean, KWIN is already performing pretty well on Wayland, but I guess they just want to improve it even more. So that's really good to see. Now, the other one is the initial implementation of SVG cursor theme or cursor theming, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically SVG as a image format. It's really good when it comes to if you want to size something really big, the resolution won't be affected by it. So you can resize it to any resolution you want, and the quality will be insanely high. I know when I do this on certain thumbnails that I make in a video, usually I'll try and find a icon that is in a SVG format, and so when I size it to, let's say, 1000 by 1000 or 500 by 500 or something, it's going to look really good, even though the original icon for it is only like maybe like 100 by 100 or something. It's going to be really high quality. So they ported this to the Breeze theme, which is the cursor that I'm using right now. And so if you're like scaling, for example, fractional scaling, or if you want to make your cursor just bigger, it's going to look a lot more better, and it's going to be a lot more easier for the developers to, I guess, when it comes to storing multiple images of the cursor. They only have to store one, and then it can just be resized to whatever image, and then it will just save that for you. So yeah, really good that they've implemented SVG cursor theming, I would say, and hopefully other desktop environments implement it if they haven't already, because SVG as an image format is really good, I would say. Now, how's my experience been on Plasma 6.2, or really how has my experience been so far on 6.2.1? Well, it's been extremely good, I would say. I know some other people have had some random bugs, but I haven't experienced that. It's been pretty normal, I would say. Only the cursor bug that it's happened when playing full screen video games, where it leaves a second cursor. That's the only bug that I have. And then the other one that got implemented when it comes to the gaming side of things, finally, is the screen tearing protocol. So what had to happen here was the screen tearing had to be implemented in the Linux kernel when it came to the, I think it was called the atomic driver or something. I think it was called atomic driver in the Linux kernel. That had to be supported for the screen tearing protocol, and then KWIN had to implement the screen tearing protocol. And so now when you're on Wayland, screen tearing actually works, because if you don't know, the screen tearing down here, when it was ticked by default, it actually wasn't being used. It was just a placeholder. KDE developers were just waiting to merge this and wait for the kernel merge to happen, and it did. So they merged it in 6.2, and it does indeed work properly. I did see screen tearing. I actually did see it at least once or twice, because screen tearing, what they're actually using is something called async, which is just the fastest way of delivering a frame, and that sometimes can cause screen tearing. So that's why it's called screen tearing, I guess. But really, it should be called asynchronously tearing or something, or asynchronously screen, because that's the actual right term. It doesn't really tear. It only tears when the GPU kind of mucks up when it comes to delivering a frame on the screen. But the only way to get screen tearing actually working properly is you need to open or use Mango HUD. So if you want, you can open up Go Overlay for configuring Mango HUD, go to your performance, and then turn the VSync for Vulkan to off. Because by default, when you launch games with Proton, it's going to use FIFO, which is a type of VSync, not really VSync, but it's a way of delivering frames in a more cleaner way, which isn't async. So you need to turn it off, which actually will make async happen. As you can see, my box here is just going at the fastest frame rate that it can go. If I had it turned on to adaptive or mailbox or on, then it wouldn't be going unlimited. It would just be going to my monitor refresh rate, which is 144. So when we turn this off and then we use Mango HUD in a game, it actually turns the VSync to immediate, which means that it's going to deliver the frame as fast as possible. And you combine this with screen tearing, it's going to give screen tearing in your games. Now, this probably will change at some point. Proton and Wayland protocols or something, they'll update it to so it detects that you have screen tearing turned on, and then it will just do immediate automatically. Because in games like CS2, it already has immediate turned on. So if you play CS2, that already detects that it's on immediate. But for games running through Proton, it seemed like most games were using FIFO instead. Now, also, what about the future of KDE Plasma? What about 6.3 that is coming in a couple of months? Well, there is a lot of things that are being worked on, I would say. So the first one is if we look through KWIN. One new option in KWIN is window add new inactive mouse action and make it default. This new option activates on click, passes clicks, and raises only on release. This way, if a user starts a drag on a window lower in the stacking order, it does not get raised above other windows immediately, which makes drag and drop less annoying to deal with. As you can see, he provided a video of it also, so that's pretty cool. It doesn't immediately do it. It just keeps the window that you actually are using in place, and then when it actually, thinks about it and goes, okay, I'm going to move this window above this window, it would actually do it properly. And as I was saying before about handling tearing, one is a draft for implement an experimental version of FIFO v1, which is a protocol that's being merged in the Wayland protocols right now. And this allows the client to get proper FIFO behavior by waiting for vblank instead of frame callbacks. Draft because we should handle tearing presentation better before merging this. Another one is Wayland provide pressed keys with keyboard and enter event. With this, the key events don't need to be forwarded to the seat interface when sending key events to an internal window. So I don't really know what that necessarily means. That's cool. If anyone knows what this means, awesome. More power to you that this option is coming available in KWIN. Another one is add support for the pointer warp protocol. It allows clients to warp the cursor on one of its surfaces to a different position to restrict the amount of annoyances a client can cause. This restricts the pointer position to be on a surface from the window that currently has pointer focus. So that's pretty cool that it will be able to, the client will be able to tell the cursor to go to a different position on that surface. That's pretty cool. It's becoming available. Another one is Wayland and support for the XGG top level tag protocol. It allows applications to tag their windows with a name like main window, email composer, pip video, or similar, which the compositor can use for window rules or restoring state of application windows without XGG session management support. So that's pretty cool that now Windows will be actually able to say,
hey, a main window.
Hey, I'm an email.
Hey, I'm a video recorder.
Hey, I'm OBS Studio.
Pretty cool that that's arriving also. Another one is to make X-Wayland resizing less glitchy. So I haven't noticed this really when resizing X-Wayland windows. It's been pretty okay. I guess one window is Steam likes to resize a bit weirdly. You can kind of see the black parts when you're resizing it. With this, X-Sync requests and WL_surface commits are unsynchronized. This results in a window bouncing when it's being resized. In order to address that, this change reworks synchronization is performed. When a window is asked to resize, KWIN will freeze WL surface commits, send a sync request, and configure the window. After the client repaints the window, it ACKs the sync request. When KWIN sees that the sync request has been ACK'd, it will unfreeze the WL surface commits, and here's the most important part, it will not update the window geometry until X-Wayland commits something. When X-Wayland commits the WL surface, KWIN will update the window geometry. It's important to wait until X-Wayland commits commits the WL surface because it can take a while until Kswayland commits the WL surface. In the meanwhile, KWIN could compose a frame with the new window geometry but old WL surface. So in the end, it's just going to make Kswayland a lot less glitchy when resizing because it's going to actually wait. KWIN's going to wait for the X11 window to actually commit something to KWIN/Wayland, so then it can actually update that frame of that window. Another one is simplifying implicit pointer grab implementation, which I don't really know what that means necessarily, but if you do know what this means, that's cool. Another one is to add pipewire explicit sync support in the screencasting of things. So this change adds explicit sync support to screencasting. If KWIN and the client successfully negotiate to use explicit sync, KWIN adds 2 additional blocks to each pipewire buffer to store file descriptors for the acquire and release sync objects. In this implementation, these are the same sync objects. The timeline points that the client needs to wait and signal are set by KWIN and shared with the client using a new SPA metadata type. So when it comes to screencasting with Pipewire, if KWIN and the screencast/Pipewire are able to negotiate that you want to use explicit sync, you're going to get a better performance out of the screencast, and it's going to look, or not look better, it's just going to perform better, I would say, with the hardware that you have that actually does support using explicit sync. And then the other one is the improvement of presentation time. So this is able to improve how VRR gets its information, or how KWIN gets the information for VRR on Wayland. So V2 allows sending refresh rate information while VRR is active, which some clients need. And there was a pull request or merge request on the Wayland protocol side, which I was reading about this merge. When this extension was developed, we did not know yet how VRR hardware would behave in practice, as it was not standardized. And the KMS interface was equally unstandardized also. Now things have shaken out to an acceptable level. We have a good idea of what we need, which is simply to include a base refresh rate, the rate that the compositor would drive the display for non-VRR clients, as well as upper and lower bounds on the refresh rate for VRR clients. Bump the protocol to version 2 to include a new event specifying the bounds, as well as a new flag bit for presentations on VRR outputs. Since the presented event is a destructor, the new event will be sent before presented. So that's pretty cool that VRR will be able to, or the Wayland protocol for VRR will be able to know more information about the actual monitor refresh bounds when it comes to like the lowest refresh rate and the highest refresh rate that you can do in the VRR range, and etc. Just know a lot more about that VRR. Some other things like DRM and support for the power saving policy property. This property allows the compositor to hint the driver that it should disable some power saving strategies, which can interfere, for example, with color accuracy. Draft, because this property isn't merged yet into the kernel, so you have to wait for the kernel merge to happen before this can be merged, and we should expose this in Kscreen. So that's pretty cool that they're going to implement and support a power saving property, so then things like color accuracy don't get mucked around with. Another one is improve fractional scaling handling of decorations. So now this MR snaps geometries, most importantly their sizes, to the pixel grid, makes decoration geometry floating points so they can render to arbitrary pixel sizes, fixes decoration rendering for arbitrary pixel sizes so that there's no gaps between the window and the decoration anymore. So if you are using fractional scaling, the handle of the decorations now will be a lot better when it comes to when you look at it. It won't look very janky, I guess you could say, even though it doesn't really look that janky, but I guess there was some jankiness to it, so they're improving it. Another one is a draft for adding some very basic Vulkan infrastructure. If you don't know, most of the stuff that we open in KDE Plasma is running under OpenGL right now. So they are adding the basic Vulkan infrastructure for this to be enabled by default at some point on KDE Plasma, which is really good to see. And then another one that's going to be implemented soon in 6.3 is to configure pen pressure. So you'll be able to actually configure the pressure of your pen when you press down on it, which is pretty cool, I would say. If we do look at the Plasma desktop things that need to be merged, this was merged in 6.3, so it's already done. But as you can see here, here is the pen pressure where you can calibrate it, change the graph that you want when you're actually pressing it down on the low pressure and high pressure. So that's really cool to see also. And one of the other things that they are deciding starting to redesign when it comes to the Plasma desktop side of things is the application launcher. As you can see, there is a new image that was created for this draft, which isn't final, I would say, but when looking at it and we compare it to this one, we can see that the user account was put down here and before it's up here. As you can see, the toggles have been a bit more minimalized, so now they have no words next to them for what they mean, and I guess some other things like the search was expanded all the way to the edge. So all I would say is that this isn't finished yet, so don't worry if you're not liking that. They probably are going to change some things when it comes to the design UI layout of the application launcher. And then the other one was to prefer symbolic icons in the sidebar, which if you don't know, I already showed this off, that the symbolic icons are already enabled if you have the Breeze one. But I guess with this one, it's going to be preferred. So when you install 6.3, if you're like, what the hell, why are my icons symbolic on the left all of a sudden? It's because of this merge request, I'm guessing. Another little thing, you can choose better badge size on vertical panel. So here's the before and here's the after. As we can see, if we do zoom in here and then we look at the new one, there is quite of a little difference with how they are going to be displayed. It seems like they're going to be displayed a bit bigger, I guess. So if we do look at the bigger one, like the 200 pixel chunker, we can see that it's changed a little bit. So on the right is the new one, on the left is the old one, and it's just a bit spaced out, a bit better. So it just looks a little bit more cleaner. And then there was another one that got implemented for the tablet, which is add setting for relative mode. So you've got a mode here. The cursor follows where you touch the pen on the device. Moving the pen on the device moves the cursor relative to where it was, like a mouse. So you'll be able to choose the option between that, which is pretty cool. And then there's a add button to clear all instances of widget from Widget Explorer. So that's quite interesting that you'll be able to do that. You just clear all button and just clear them all. And when it comes to the Discover, there is some performance improvements, like small optimization for startup time. So it's going to be a bit quicker when it comes to loading Discover. As I know, when you do load Discover, it does take sometimes a little bit depending on the hardware that you have. Even on here, it takes, like if we launch it right now, it took about 2 seconds. I mean, that's not really that long, but with these startup times, it's going to start up a lot more quicker, and there'll be more of an improvement when it comes to older hardware, like on my laptop, on my 2015 laptop, or on like my 2013 desktop computer I have in the study, and that would be improved when it comes to launching Discover. And another one in Kscreen that I found was allow setting sRGB color intensity in SDR mode too. So that would be pretty cool that will be available, and it depends on this KWIN merge, which is to allow using SDR gamut whiteness with SDR as well. There's no reason to disallow it. While it's not necessarily ideal to use a non-zero whiteness for color critical workflows, that's up to the user to decide. So it just gives you a bit more flexibility when it comes to the color settings of the SDR that you get to choose when it comes to sRGB. So that's the conclusion with Plasma 6.2, 6.2.1 also, the bugs that I experienced, the features that are now available, and the features that are coming and fixes that are coming in Plasma 6.3. So if you guys did enjoy this rather long video, I would say, definitely give it a like again, but definitely subscribe to the channel also. Thank you to my members. I'll show a screenshot of them now. Thank you very much for giving me money every month. I really do appreciate it. And again, thank you for 7,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate it. I would definitely like to hear your thoughts down below about Plasma 6.2, the bugs that you have experienced. And if you also do experience these bugs, please go and report them to the KDE bugs website, which I'll leave a link in the description for you go to do that, which you need to create an account, but afterwards you can easily create a bug report of whatever bug that you're experiencing so that the KDE developers can actually fix these problems that you are having. And of course, and I really do mean this, if you really do care about using a desktop environment like KDE Plasma or GNOME or Budgie or Cosmic, even if they have a donation link, if we go to KDE donate, definitely donate to the KDE desktop. If you really do care about this desktop environment, definitely give them some, either a one-time donation, even if it's like $1 or $2 or something like that, it's definitely still worth it. Or if you want to become a member, which if you do become a member, I do know they do list the members in the actual desktop environment, which is pretty cool, like the settings somewhere, they do show that. And so that does it for today's video. So probably my next video, I don't really know what it's going to be, to be honest. I do have a lot of ideas of what I can do, but I will see you guys in that next video. Peace.